All right, today we're jumping into a wild story. It's a 350-year epic of terror and transformation right on the shores of Bengal. We're talking about pirates who became princes and mercenaries who, in a really stunning twist, ended up laying the very groundwork for modern Bengali culture.
So here's the big question, right? How on earth does a group of European traders become the most feared pirates in the entire Bay of Bengal? And then, get this, they become the surprise architects of a cultural renaissance. Their story is just packed with these contradictions, a mix of brutality and brilliance that really forces us to ask some tough questions.
Okay, so let's rewind. Picture this, it's the 16th century. The very first Portuguese ships show up in Bengal, and they are just blown away by the wealth they see. Especially in this one port, Chittagong. They were so impressed, they gave it a new name, Porto Grande de Bengala, which literally means the Grand Harbor of Bengal.
So they arrive as traders back in the early 1500s and set up shop pretty fast. But what's crazy is that they stick around for over 350 years. And you can really break down their time there into 3 acts. First, they're traders, then they become these notorious pirates, and finally, they kind of just blend in, but in a way that changes absolutely everything.
Now, they might have started out as traders, but things took a really dark turn, and fast. It was all about power and money. So they teamed up with Arakanese raiders from what is now Myanmar, and together, they just unleashed this wave of terror along the coast. I mean, we're talking about something people would whisper about for centuries to come.
And you know, the locals even had a special name for them, the Harmads. The word came from Armada, but for the people of Bengal, it just meant one thing, fear. Their brutality was so legendary that a whole new phrase popped up in the language, Mogur Muluk, which basically meant a lawless land, a place ruled by pirates.
Their main business? Well, it became the slave trade. And the way they did it was just unimaginable. They would raid villages, capture people, and, this is just horrific, they'd pierce their hands and literally string them together before packing them into the dark, suffocating holds of their ships.
And the sheer scale of this, it's just mind-boggling. We're talking about an estimated 42,000 people. 42,000 trafficked as slaves from just the Chittagong area in only 3 years. And they were sold in markets all over, from Goa on India's west coast all the way out to Indonesia.
And out of this chaos, these pirate princes start to emerge, guys who became absolute legends of terror. The most infamous of them all was Sebastian Gonzalez Tabao. This guy started out as a simple salt trader, but he was so ruthless and clever that he actually conquered an entire island, Sandweep, and declared himself an independent king, a pirate king.
Okay, but here's where the story takes another strange twist. You'd think everyone would hate these guys, right? Well, not exactly. These same terrifying pirates suddenly became the most sought-after mercenaries around. The local Bengali warlords, the Barabuyans, needed them to fight an even bigger threat, the mighty Mughal Empire.
So why on earth would you team up with pirates? Well, it was actually a brilliant, if desperate, move. It's like this. The Mughals completely owned the land. Huge army, big cannons, the whole deal. But on the water, not so much. The Portuguese, on the other hand, had basically no land army, but their warships and cannons were the best in the world. It was a perfect strategic match.
So you have these powerful Bengali chieftains, like Maharaj Pratapaditya, and they do what seems unthinkable. They put the pirates on their payroll. They hired guys like Dominic Carvalho to be their artillery commanders, essentially using pirate fleets to fight off the imperial forces. What an unbelievable alliance.
But let's be real. An alliance like this, built on convenience, it was never gonna last. The Portuguese had a reputation for betraying pretty much everyone, and you just couldn't ignore the sheer, overwhelming power of the Mughal Empire forever. You just knew a day of reckoning was coming.
And it came down hard. It was like a 1-2 punch. First, in 1632, an enraged Emperor Shah Jahan, the guy who built the Taj Mahal, ordered his forces to completely wipe out the Portuguese settlement at Hooghly. Then, the final nail in the coffin came in 1666. The Mughal general Shaista Khan launched a massive campaign and took their main stronghold of Chittagong, shattering their power for good.
So that's it, right? End of the story. A violent, bloody chapter finally closed. But is that really all they were? Just a footnote in history about some pirates and hired guns? The answer, you might be surprised to hear, is way more complex.
Because after their military power was completely crushed, the Portuguese didn't just disappear. Instead, a second, totally surprising legacy started to flourish.
And this one wasn't about fighting. It was about shaping the culture, the language, and even the food of Bengal.
This part is just incredible to me. Think about this. The very first person to systematically write down the Bengali language in print, the first grammar, the first dictionary, wasn't a Bengali scholar. He was a Portuguese priest named Manuel de Assumpção. Working from a small mission, he basically laid the foundation for modern Bengali literature.
And then there's the food. I mean, can you even imagine Bengali food without chilies? Before the Portuguese showed up, the only heat came from black pepper. They brought chilies from the Americas, along with potatoes, papayas, pineapples, cashews, all staples that are completely fundamental to the cuisine today.
They were also tech pioneers. They brought the very first printing press, not just to Bengal, but to the entire Indian subcontinent. They introduced new farming techniques like grafting, which gave us better varieties of mangoes. They even popularized baked bread. The Bengali word for it, pauruti, comes directly from the Portuguese word for bread, pão.
So their military empire completely vanished, but the Portuguese people themselves didn't. They stayed, they assimilated, and over generations they just blended into the very fabric of Bengal, leaving this permanent mark on its culture, language, and people. They became known as the Farangees, which was the local term for foreigners. They intermarried and blended in, but their legacy is still right there if you know where to look. You can find place names like Farangi Bazaar in Chittagong and Dhaka, and so many common Bengali Christian surnames like Gomez, Rosario, and Costa all trace their roots back to these settlers.
So that leaves us with this deeply complex legacy. These were pirates who enslaved thousands, yet they also gave the Bengali language its very first printed book. They were brutal mercenaries, but they introduced foods and technologies that enriched the entire region. So what should we take away from a history with no simple heroes or villains? A story that is both terrible and truly transformative.